Hey, Mike.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the final meeting of the Board of Supervisors of 2017. We will kick off today's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Will be led today by Supervisor Shucklian.
Thank you, Chairman. Please join me in saluting our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 1 on today's agenda is Board of Supervisors matters, and I will start with the state champion alumni, Mr. Crocker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is a great day to be a Spartan. Every other day is something else, but today's a great day. Well, first, before I get into Strathmore, I want to congratulate Golden West on a phenomenal season. Golden West High School did a great job. First-time Valley champions, regional, sectional champions as well in California. First time in the hosting, Visalia's hosted a state finals for football, and so that's a huge achievement. And for the other Visalia schools, well, they're not in District 1, so I don't really care. Strathmore, though, it's been a great week and weekend. There's a tremendous amount of community support. I want to, first of all, give a big thank you to our chief and the fire department for helping give our young men and the coaches a nice send-off Saturday morning. Where we had an engine that went out with the team as they left Strathmore Saturday morning, as well as the sheriff's department. They also participated in the send-off, and Sheriff Boudreau and the men and women of the sheriff's department who helped bring in a nice reception as they crossed county line and brought them in after a nice victory. So I want to thank them first and foremost. I also want to thank staff from the Board of Supervisors, from RMA, from fire, and from sheriffs as well as we and the CAO staff. As we are coordinating a parade. It may be very short, but I think it's appropriate for Strathmore.
From Orange Works
We want to make sure that everyone arrives, so don't get lost. But
they're early.
That's right. But we will be having a parade on Saturday morning, starting at 10 a.m. It won't be very long, but we are coordinating with Porterville Unified and Strathmore High School. We've had a lot of great support and interest from the local community. Some of the past Valley champion football teams, I think, want to participate, and some of the little Strathmore High Football Hall of Fame. And so it should be a great event, a little rally, and there may even be some food afterwards, I'm told. So we'll find out whether or not. But I just want to give a big thank you for everyone for participating in that effort, and it's great. I'm ecstatic.
I can tell. Supervisor Ennis.
Well, I'd like to echo that too. I mean, my goodness, you've seen Valley championship teams, but state champion? I mean, I don't think we've ever had a state championship team. Of course, back in my day, all we went to was league. If you won league, there you were. You didn't get to go any further.
They had football that long
but
ago?
sometimes we had good football teams, man.
Leather helmets.
We were one high school at that time, Porterville High, only one there. So, I mean, we had some really good teams. But, no, I have to congratulate them. And listening to Coach Blackwell on the radio, he said, we had an assignment. We're kind of like a military deal. We're supposed to go down there and get an assignment done and then come back to the community. And he said, that's what we did. Our number one aim was to go down to Orange County and break their heart. And we did it, and we come home with a championship. So, and he also was relating to the way Carruthers did. They went down. the night before and got them a bunch of motel rooms and had a big celebration, tried to make it look like the Super Bowl of high school, and it showed when they played the next day. So in other words, these guys are all business, and you could watch the way they played, the way they were coached, strictly business, and that was to get a state championship. They came that close last year. This year they got her done. So as Supervisor Worthy would say, they got her done, right?
Get her done.
I'm real appreciative, too, of a local school, especially Strathmore, which has our charter school and the high school combined over there to win this state championship. It's a great deal. I've got the groundwater management meeting on Thursday, and that's all I had for today. Thank you.
All right, Supervisor Worthy, why don't we talk a little bit about Dinuba football and how the game went against Tulare Union for the Valley Championship? You
It's actually kind of old news.
Okay, all right, we're not going to go. I just got to bring up some fresh District 4 football news.
Congratulations to Tulare and to winning a Valley Championship. A couple things I wanted to mention. Last week I was able to be briefly at the RMA holiday luncheon that they held at the museum and at the park, and it was I think they had about 200 people there. It was everybody seemed to have a great time, and food was good, and everybody was enjoying themselves. So it was great to see them all get together. I know they're such a spread out department with people being in South County and North County, and this is kind of the one time or twice a year they get together like this, and it's great to have that camaraderie. Last week I was in Sacramento with the San Joaquin Valley Water Infrastructure Authority as we gave our presentation of the project for the construction of Temperance Flat Dam to the Water Commission, and we had an excellent turnout. Kyler was there, Crocker from Tulare County, and Doug Verboon from Kings, and Lloyd Pereira from Merced. We had Jim Patterson and Joaquin Arambula, the only two elected officials of the state legislature, I think, that were present for the presentations. But because they were out of session, they made a special trip up to Sacramento to make their appearances and speak on behalf of the project. And we had about 30 people, I think, get up and speak favorably for the project, and there were like 3 environmental organizations that spoke in opposition to it. But it was a great presentation. And now in January, we will be looking for a determination by the Water Commission as to which of the 12 projects that were submitted will be eligible to be receiving funding, and then we'll be looking in June for the final allocation. And that's all I have to say today, except to have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday to all of you in the Tulare County world, and not only our employees and staff, but also to the community at large. Thank you.
Supervisor Shuckling.
Okay, last Wednesday, it was my first time. Well, everything this year was my first time, I guess, for the computer giveaway, where the Rotary, the Board of Supervisors, the Office of Education, and Office Depot takes computers that were used within the county, takes them in, refurbishes them, puts new software and all that, and then throughout the county, the schools pick students who have shown exceptional character and participation, and I got to deliver some of those, and it was quite a gift for these kids to receive. They were surprised. They didn't know they were getting them. Once they got over the fear of being called into the office, over the loudspeaker to the whole school, and them walking in and receiving a computer was quite a gift. So thank you to all those who were able to make this happen. Saturday night, I attended and spoke at the Filipino American Association of Tulare County, and that was quite a great event. Lots of good food and good dancing going on there. Tomorrow we have the Homeless Task Force meeting, and we'll be looking over some potential consultants to hire to help us in the homeless issue that we have here throughout Tulare County. And on Sunday, I'm sure it was because I was there, but I attended the 49ers game where they won in the last 3 seconds. So that was pretty cool. Now they're 3 for 3 of the last 3 games only, though. So we'll see what happens next year with Jimmy G. That's it.
Okay, lots of football news for Board of Supervisors matters today. The one thing business-related that I wanted to make sure that I covered, UCLA does have a bowl game on the 26th. I hope that goes okay for them. I'm not so optimistic, but I think it's like a cactus bowl or something like that. But
it is.
There's a bowl for everything in college bowl. But
toilet bowl.
Tomorrow we do have a meeting of the Strategic Finance Committee. That meeting starts at 9 o'clock. I think that there's going to be some valuable presentations given specifically related to retirement and options there, and then also in the Health and Human Services financial world and the outlook for that going forward. I want to thank all of our staff for a wonderful year. I think 2017 was a great year for Tulare County. We'll go into a little bit more detail at the next board meeting because 2017 isn't over yet. I'm sure there's still opportunity for great things to continue to happen. And we'll finish off the year on a very high note before I hand the gavel over to likely next chair, Supervisor Worthley, and hopefully 2018 will be full of great things as well. So I wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holiday Season, and I look forward to more great things to come from Tulare County in the next year. That's all I have. We will now move on to item 2 on our agenda, which is a request to recognize Ron Parrish upon his retirement from the Tulare County Fire Department for his many years of county service. And I will turn the microphone over to the chief.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Supervisors, Mr. Spada, Ms. Peterson. Come on up, Ron. As you can see, Ron is a behemoth of a man. Ron just has done so much for the Tulare County Fire Department, both before when we were at CAL FIRE, City of Farmersville. He's been so active in the community. I can't say enough. I'd like to read a brief bio, but words can't express what Ron has done for the fire service as well as Tulare County Fire Department citizens of Tulare County. In 1962,
I was born.
I think my dad might have been
I was
born.
born.
He
Probably,
in 1961,
probably.
Just saying.
Ron started hanging around at fire station in Farmersville.
His diapers.
He was dropped off there as a child.
Okay, got a couple more? He was a volunteer firefighter at that time. When he was 17, he was allowed to participate in drills, and he became a member of the volunteer fire department. His athletic and big stature, Ron's got to go 5'4", 5'5", 110 at that time.
5'11" when I'm there.
But we in the fire service recognize these people as what we call attic rats. So big guys like me that have lots of girth, we don't get to go up in the attic. We go, hey, where's Ron? And he's easily stowed away in overhead storage. He's a great guy to have around. He's been a member of the Marine Reserve, and he lived in Farmersville with his wife and 2 children, one of his day. And he worked for the City of Farmersville, Tulare County Fire Department, Lovers Lane, and he's also worked for the state of California on a contract basis, driving crew buses and fire apparatus. He was hired by our agency with its inception in 2007. He's worked at Lemon Cove, Dinuba, and Three Rivers. His most recent assignment, he was a captain in Three Rivers. And some of the day-to-day things, in addition to running emergency calls, are just instrumental. He's going to be missed so much in Three Rivers. Our Parade 1 apparatus, Ron is the brains and the brawn behind that outfit, bringing that thing to just a shell of what it was into the beautiful piece that you see before us today. He's also a barber, which means he has all sorts of intel and information in all the communities of Tulare County. He will tell me what I've done even before I get back to the office. This has been a passion. This is a calling for Ron. He has passed along the institutional memory. He has passed along the right thing to do, what we need to do in the fire service. I'm so proud to call him my friend. I'm so proud. And I'm looking forward to him going on to the next chapter, but it is a huge loss for the Tulare County Fire Department. Words can't describe what Ron's done for the fire service. With that, and on your behalf, I'd like to give Ron, upon his retirement for many years of service and dedication, officially June 1, 1973, to October 14, 2017. Thank you so much for your service, Ron.
All right. I would like to say I've seen a lot of changes within the fire department over the course of from 1962 until today. And
Ron, would you pull the microphone over towards you a little bit so the audience can
from
hear you?
1962 until yeah, real low, real low. But you know, it's amazing to see each day fire changes, and to stay with that program and to stay on base, be able to make the changes and stay on board. I've been blessed to be able to do that, and with the right leadership and with the right supervisors and training, it's been a blessing to me. And to live out a dream where you volunteer for all those years and you flip-flop it and you go full-time and part-time haircutter. And it's kind of funny because sometimes we'd be, when you come to the shop, I'd set a guy down, I'd be cutting his hair, and I think, man, I better. Now look, I belong to the fire department. Sometimes I get called out. Get one side caught, and all of a sudden the paper goes off, and you're like, okay, we're done. I won't charge you for the haircut today, but when you come back, I'll take care of you. And so it was really, people got used to that, and being able to respond right away on calls, and it was, every once in a while business might be a little slow, but they'd hear of a fire down south, and they're like, well, we thought you were gone. So anyway, I'd like to thank the board, and I'd like to thank the leader of Tulare County Fire, the city of Farmersville also, where I was started out there. It was under county contract at the time, and I've learned something no matter each day. Even some people that I don't totally agree with, if you keep an open mind, you'll always learn something, and that's what I hope to pass on to the kids that were younger than I, a lot younger than I, that they could learn something. Don't be negative, just have an open mind, and you will always learn something. Thank you very much.
Don't leave yet.
Yeah, if you'd like to go ahead and make a few comments, go ahead, Supervisor.
We have, I know, many fine employees in Tulare County. Unfortunately, we don't always get to meet them like I got to meet Ron. And that was on parades where Ron would be the driver of engine number 1. And so because of those times together, we got to talk, and we would talk about county, but more we'd talk about family. And I just remember how proud Ron is of his family, his children, and we would have conversations about raising kids. And I just want to say that it was a privilege, Ron, to come to know you and consider you a friend as well. Certainly I'm not as close to you as many others are, but I just appreciate and treasure those times that we were together. And I just want to thank you for your service to Tulare County. But just as you spoke now about your sense of awareness about how we can learn from everyday experiences from everyone that we come in contact with, what a great life lesson I think you've given to people that you've been around, and thank you.
Ron, I'd also like to thank you. Whether it was Springville, whether it was Porterville, you always had Parade 1 there, and it was just a jewel. And I get more comments from people about Parade 1 and what a beautiful fire truck that's turned out to be. And I know in the early days, when you first brought it out, and then what you got now, it has evolved into a masterpiece, I call it, but a beautiful deal. But Ron, thank you for all your years of service. And I also appreciate getting to know you a little better when you'd come to those parades, and my wife and everybody. So you're very important. You've been very important to this fire department, and I think you're still very important to the communities that you live in. So thank you so much for your years of service, and good luck to you. And who knows, maybe I'll come up and get a haircut from you if you're still doing it.
That'll be an easy haircut to give there. Anyone else want to make any comments?
Good luck to you, Ron. Thank you for your service.
And I just want to say thank you, Ron. I know my son's first fire truck experience was with you in the Tulare Fair Parade, and I've gotten to know you over the years as well. And you've seen me evolve from a young buck that just started on the Board of Supervisors in a fair parade at age 24 to now being old and washed up with my own kids. So I appreciate your dedication, and I really do think it's important for men and women in the fire department to really look at you as the pillar that you are in the fire service. Your dedication, regardless of the agency that you were working with or working for, is tremendous and should be respected and acknowledged by all. And I do think that the one piece of advice, Supervisor Worthley touched on it a little bit, but the one piece of advice that I think can help any employee, regardless of what industry they work in, is that have an open mind. Learn something new every day. It can make your life more enjoyable. It will make your work more enjoyable. And I think that you've imparted some of that very valuable wisdom upon your fellow firefighters, and I'm very grateful for that, and you definitely have left an impact on this department here in Tulare County.
Mr. Chairman, I went to say earlier, excuse me if I might, but, he's not a big man. He's big in heart. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
All right, well, I wish you the best in your retirement, Ron, and may there be many hairs to cut for you in the future.
Well, I felt a little bad because Supervisor Worley asked me one time, when are you going to retire? And I told him, I'm going to do it this year. And then that came and went. I changed my mind. And I felt a little bit bad. I was like, so next time I see somebody, like, when are you going to retire? It's coming soon. And then when I was injured, and then I always said that I would always leave when I couldn't, always never wanted to be a danger to my fellow firefighter. And I think that sometimes when you get to that point, I always said I'd leave. Bye.
Hey, Carrie, do you want to open the door and we'll all take a picture with Ron right here in the well real quick, if you don't mind?
Not quite done yet. We're going to do with everybody.
Great experience.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say one more thing.
Sure.
Can't get rid of me. I start talking and I can't stop. But I would like to say, Parade 1, even though I was driving it, it was done, that's something that was done between the private sector and the department and the county, all working together, and a bunch of people volunteered, a lot of labor. No one person did anything, but it was a great project.
Even we had to push it, right, Ron? If it could have been
That's
a
a whole
GM.
story within itself. If my camera would have just worked that day, I would have had it. We were going through the Rosie Parade, and the truck would run 100 yards. And all of a sudden, it just stopped. And the color guard was coming behind us, and they're marching behind us, and I was like, or ahead of us. They were behind us. And they get right up on us, and it'd start. They'd go about 100 yards, and it'd stop. So finally, I was back pushing. And I looked next to me. Here's Supervisor Worley over there pushing. If I just had a camera at that moment.
Well, I'm glad you
we
was
got it to
pushing
the
and not
parade
just
route.
driving, right? Thank
was
you,
it.
Ron. All the best.
Thanks.
Next, we'll take up item number 2 on our agenda, which is, item 3 on our agenda, which is a request to recognize Mike Olmos upon his retirement from the city of Visalia for his many years of dedicated service. And I'd now like to call forward Mike, and Supervisor Shucklian will take over.
I bet you never thought you'd be in these chambers receiving an award, did you, Mike? Come on over here. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, in honor of your many years of service and dedication to the city of Visalia, which in turn is the residents of Tulare County, we want to thank you. And I make that joke, but Mike, you came on, and when I was on the city council and mayor, and we chose you as city manager, and that's probably one of the best decisions I made while on the city council. You're right, you led that ship for a long time, and I think because of your service, because of your professionalism, because of just who you are here today being honored by the Board of Supervisors. I think you've worked very well with our staff, with Mr. Spada. I know working together on collaboration between city issues and county issues. I know you used to work for the county, then you worked for the city of Reedley, and then Visalia was very lucky to get you as our community development director and then the city manager. And I'm sure some folks in here have worked with Mike or worked for Mike, and so you know how lucky I was on the city council for you to be in charge. So professionally, thank you very much. On a personal note, thank you for your friendship. We've played some golf together. We've shot some guns together.
We've done that too.
So maybe in your retirement we can do that.
We'll do it again.
I didn't want to give you anything because I know you're not going to go home and put this in the living room wall. I'm sure Gail probably will say no. But if you want to meet me in the back, you can just give us the frame back and all of that, because you're retired, you don't have an office or anything. But we had to kind of present you with something. But seriously, personally, on behalf of Mary and myself, thank you for being our friend, and I wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
You deserve it. Thank you.
I want to express my thanks to Tulare County, to the supervisors, for, frankly, all these years of friendship and respect and the challenges you've sent my way. We haven't always agreed, but I've always come and enjoyed the discussions we've had, and I felt that they've been fair and forthright, and I always felt that I was well treated, and I just really enjoyed that. So I want to also mention, I grew up in the area. I'm a Porterville guy, like Mr. Ennis over here. We both went to Porterville High School. Probably others here.
That explains a lot.
In the chambers. And after I graduated high school, I was kind of wandered around a bit, wound up working in the lumber mill up at the Indian Reservation, and one day decided this is not going to be the life I wanted to live. And so I wound up going to college and got myself out of college, and the first job I got was with Tulare County. So I was a planner here for 11 years, and that's where I learned really what I needed to know in order to in terms of work ethic, in terms of a marketable skill, and that set me on my way. So I want to thank the county for giving me that opportunity. So the Board of Supervisors, when I came here, as I recall, Mr. Hillman, Mr. Baird, Mr. Batkin, Mr. Muller, and then I'm trying to remember who the last one was, but it was a great board. And I remember coming to this podium for the first time to present. My knees were shaking. I could hardly get a word out, but they listened to me and they treated me well and they set me on my way. So thanks to you as a Board of Supervisors. Thanks to the county for the privilege of working both for you and with you, and for giving me a start on a 42-year-long career, which is now coming to an end. So thanks again. Appreciate it. And Amy, thank you very much. You've been a great friend.
Thank you.
It still rings in my ear.
Does it?
Thank you.
All right. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thanks, Mike.
I thought Amy said it very well. All the best to you in your retirement, Mike, and it really has been a pleasure to work with you, and you really have always been a man of character. You never did do anything that was sneaky or on behalf of your own interests. It was always in the interest of the people and in the interest of the entity that you were representing, and I think that is to be commended, and I certainly respect that about you a lot. And I know that there have been some issues in the past where Visalia has been on one side and the county's been on the other, but we've always been able to rely upon you for good, clear communication of your point and of the city's point, and we've always been able to work amicably through whatever issue that we've been encountering. So I appreciate that, and I wish you nothing but the best in your retirement, Mike.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it
you.
very, very
Thank
much.
you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
I'd just like to say, Mike, thank you. I know you are an old Porterville boy, which I'm kind of proud of that, but also Mayor Gubler, he's a Porterville boy.
That's true. That's true.
And your chief of police, Salazar, they're Porterville boys.
Very
So,
true.
as the mayor says, we raise them up right in Porterville.
The commonality there was
Get
they
the
all
hell out of
escaped.
town.
Everyone got out of there.
But Mark, before you go too, I just want to, I didn't realize your background actually in the county, because I remember you were on the city manager for Reedley, and that was kind of the earliest I knew of you in terms of a position. But I too just want to say you were always very professional with us, and I always kind of chuckle a little bit when we had a particular project of the land use issue. It was on the other side of the St. Johns River. And he says, well, the city's going to be out there in 10 years. We're going to be there, That was about 30 years ago, 15 years ago. And, of course, they're never going to go out underneath that river, I don't think. But anyway, what I wanted to say was that there is something I learned a long time ago from an old attorney up in White Sulphur Springs, Montana. And we were talking, and he said, I think we can disagree and not be disagreeable. And I've always felt like like you said, we might always not agree on a particular issue, but we were never disagreeable, and that's a great trait, I think, to have in public life and in personal life.
I appreciate that, and but my experience here helped me a lot in working for the cities, in particular with Visalia, because I understood what the county's viewpoint was, because I had been there, and I think that helped a lot. Right. And one of the goals that I had in coming to the city manager's job was to improve the relationship between the city and the county, because for a time it was not very good. But I think my experience with the county and knowing all of you that were sitting up on the dais was really helpful to achieve that goal, and I think that's improved a lot. So that's not just on me. That's with you as a board. That's with Mr. Spot over there, who has become a very good person to work with as well. So I want to thank all of you for helping in that regard. So, and thank you again for the recognition. I am very honored. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Next, we will take up item number 4 on our agenda, which is public comments. I have 2 requests in front of me. One request is from Steve Sexton. Steve?
Good morning. I see I'm on the clock, so I'll be brief here. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to the board. I'm with Synagro Technologies. We are manufacturers, one of the largest manufacturers of compost fertilizer, biosolids compost fertilizer. And I'm here today to ask for you to review and to amend current regulations having to do with biosolids compost. I'm joined today by Lane Beraldi. He is our Vice President of Legislative, and I didn't think this was going to be nerve-wracking, but that's right, it's nerve-wracking. I'm joined by Lane Beraldi. He's our Vice President of Regulatory and Legislative Affairs. And again, today we just want to talk and ask for your review and amendment of the current regulations having to do with biosolids in the county. Biosolids, if you're not familiar with it, is a regular resource that's used by the agricultural community for applying or supplementing organic matter and nutrients to the soil for increased crop production, as well as reduction in overall cost, as well as reduction in the pesticides that the growers have to use. Here in the county, there are restrictions that are actually governed by your agricultural commissioner in Maryland. I'm going to butcher her name, Kinoshita. In a meeting with her, she suggested that I come before your board and ask for any type of alterations to that ordinance. She is just the enforcement mechanism, and any type of amendments made to that ordinance would have to come here through the board. With that, I'm running out of time here. I would say that SB 1383, I'm not sure your familiarity with it or not, but it's mandating a 75% reduction in organic matter from the current landfills in which it's directed towards. That is going to need a source. It's going to need a place, a landing place for all that organic recyclable material. And that organic waste, one great avenue is with our agricultural lands and our farmers and our growers within the valley. It's currently being used regularly in 53 of our 58 counties. So you can rest assured in the fact that we have a long history of successful use of the material without it compromising any type of health, water, air, or environmental issues. The governing body here in the state is Cal Recycle. With your handouts, you'll see notations made to where biosolids composting, once properly composted, is no longer considered biosolids, but is considered compost. I would just tell you that the ordinance currently is 21 years since it's been reviewed, it looks like. And as such, I think there's an avenue here for you to look at biosolids compost as a viable means by which your growers can supplement their organic supplements into their soils. And I'm out of time.
Steve, one thing that I wanted to ask you about, I know that we had visited before. You had provided me with Riverside County as being a model ordinance to follow. Is that the one that you would consider still today? Or I was not aware that 53 of the 58 counties are currently allowing that. Would Riverside still be the ordinance that you would suggest that Tulare County look at?
Riverside is just one of many. There's a lot of every local enforcement agency has their own twist on how they like to see it best used. I would tell you that for the most part, 53 of those 58 counties are unfettered. So if you want, we'd be happy to enter into a dialogue with the Ag Commissioner with your guys' direction in regards to what makes sense for Tulare County and what makes sense in regards to supplying the nutrients needed by the growers up and down the valley here, and certainly here in this county.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thank you,
your
guys.
comments. Next, I will call up Lane Baraldi.
Chairman Vanderpool and supervisors, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I just came up because I knew it was a 3-minute rule and there was a lot to talk about, and so I'm backing up Steve on that. And I've dealt with this field with biosolids compost for, unfortunately, about 30 years. And it's what you're looking at is you have federal regulations for biosolids, and it allows, there's no preemption, so it allows for state and local control. And the LEA here is the the Ag Commissioner, and they usually follow what Cal Recycle states as the regulations. And what Cal Recycle just determined is that once biosolids are composted, they literally do not consider it biosolids. It's gone through what they call process to further reduce pathogens to make it where you can actually buy it in a local retail store for home use. And you have a lot of counties, and there's been a lot of battles over the years. Even here in this county, the court case for Kern County was removed to here. And Judge Hicks here found in Tulare County Superior Court that the use of this material, even a Class A, less than a compost, is perfectly safe and all that, and ruled in favor of the city of Los Angeles. What we're looking at is a product here, and you're looking at ordinances. For example, your neighboring county, Kings County, adopted an ordinance that said, we understand that we can't ban biosolids, that's precluded, you can regulate. And they determined that compost was a superior product, and that in order to avoid any challenges, they adopted an ordinance that said all you can land apply for bulk agricultural use is compost in this county. And so that easily withstood legal challenges and has been rocking and rolling for many years right now. I think you have, up in that county, you have Westlake Farms of Tulare Lake Compost, you have Liberty Ranch that's used it, and a lot of people have successfully used it over the years. So it's a time-proven practice that is environmentally safe and have a lot of data to back that up. Also, you have what they call, Steve talked about it, Senate Bill 1383, which is a pretty onerous mandate on the state of California to recycle roughly, I think the baseline year was 2014, where 20 million tons of organic material are going into landfill. Have to reduce it by 75%, so you have to find a home for 15 million tons, which will involve a lot of composting. So you're going to see a lot of direction from the state, if anything, probably even to look at preempting local control, which I hope they don't. I'm a big fan, being a mayor of a city before, of local control, so I don't like seeing that taken away. But you may see something like that, efforts to do such, to allow for use of this type of material. So I think good ordinances, Riverside's one, Kings is another, and we can always help with that. But the material's safe and has been backed up by the State Water Board of an EIR, Cal Recycle, Title 14, a lot of that. So we have a lot of information to share. And I see my time's up.
Good use of your 3 minutes, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any additional public comments this morning related to an item that's within our jurisdiction but not on today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Oh, go ahead. Okay.
He's a little slower.
Come on.
Yeah, sure. Okay, sorry, Carrie.
I definitely
allow
want to give
for
the
pregnant
public
women to walk up. I apologize.
time to go first. Good morning, supervisors, Mr. Spada, CAO, and Ms. Peterson, County Council. Carrie Montero, board representative, and I'm here before you today is I wanted to announce the launch to you all of our new Tulare County website. We have multiple websites in the counties, various departments, programs, and services. The one specifically that we are launching today is what we refer to as our Tulare County main website, tularecounty.ca.gov. And so I wanted to take a moment to bring you up to speed of what staff has been working on. Also, I want to take a moment to give thanks to our IT department, our TCIT, for all of their support in this project, specifically Mr. Stephen Hazen, who is in the audience back there, who worked a lot with our staff on this project and getting this up to date. So with that, I'm going to cue our clerk to give you a little show of what we've worked on. So what
I already don't like it.
Can we change the
I
front
already
picture?
don't like it.
So what we did is we had a lot of outdated information on the main website, and so when we were reviewing it, we had a lot of outdated information, specifically the software that was running on the website. So because of that outdated software, we were having many issues of the main website connecting and linking properly to our various departments and program websites. So in doing that, step number one was to update the software so they were very compatible. And so we did that, which fixed a lot of linking issues. So now we were able to have a lot more user-friendly to our various popular services. So we upgraded the software, we redesigned the layout to be more clean and user-friendly. And then the biggest thing is prior to this, our Tulare County main website did not have many mobile capabilities because it was a later version. So we're now proud to say that with this new web software version that you can pull it up on your phone, Android, iPhones, iPads, etc., which is a great feature for us to better communicate to our residents in as well as others outside of Tulare County and our constituents. So it's a work in progress. We're always going to be updating and changing it so it is new, fresh information. As you can see, we wanted to have various news stories. So we have the holidays and our new relocation of our sheriff and fire headquarters. So those will always be ever changing. So with that, I wanted to share with you that news and that it is live. And thank you for your time.
Looks great. Nice to see a new website. I'm sure it'll be very popular amongst this board and all Tulare County residents. So we look forward to doing that. The public comment period is closed, but I would like to give direction to our Ag Commissioner to work with Synagro and see what we can do to tweak the ordinance related to biosolids for Tulare County's specific purpose in the future.
Mr. Chair, on
Yeah,
that
sure.
one, actually, I think this is a good issue for the Ag Policy Advisory
Okay,
Committee
yeah,
to
perfect,
look at.
yeah.
I think they can
Run
dive into
it.
it deeper and
Sure.
make a recommendation for us.
So that would be a good first step. Thank you, Marilyn. All right, we do have a 9:30 timed items, but I would like to take an item out of order, specifically in the interest of time for some of the members of the audience who I know are here to speak for this, related to this. And I'd like to take up item 33, which is a request from the Resource Management Agency to approve a categorical exemption that is consistent with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, Title 14, California Code of Regulations, Section, come on, Reed, you got to help me out. This is a long sentence.
I was sitting a little too far in the back.
All right,
there.
go
I
ahead.
apologize. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Reed Shanke with the Resource Management Agency. Today, with this item, we're going to request your authorization to install or construct a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Avenue 240 and Road 140. Also, establish a no stopping zone across the street from the Sundale School on Avenue 240. Install a school zone ahead flashing beacon on Road 140. So some various traffic operational improvements to this intersection and the area around the Sundale School. Here is a map. The Avenue 240 is also Prosperity, and Road 140 is Lover's Lane, located a few miles to the east of Tulare. Road 140 is the through traffic there, running north-south, and 240 is currently a two-way stop-controlled intersection. Here's an aerial photograph of the vicinity, the region. You can see the Sundale School there is the primary inhabitant of that northeast or northwest quadrant. 240 again running east-west, and Road 140 running north-south. As I zoom in a little bit, or before I zoom in a little bit, just wanted to call attention here to kind of some parking area. This is a pull-through bus, or a student drop-off pull-through on the school. They've got some parking here, and then quite a bit more parking up on the north there. A little bit of history of the intersection. So prior to the spring or summer of this year, this was a fairly typical county two-way stop-controlled intersection. Road 140 doesn't have a stop currently. It does have left turn lanes going to the east and to the west, and then stop signs on Avenue 240. As the result of a recent highway safety improvement program project where we improved 57 stop-controlled intersections throughout the county, we did an intersection traffic collision analysis, and we identified some improvements that these various intersections would benefit from. As a result of that project, we installed larger stop signs, stop-ahead flashing beacons, and a flashing beacon for a school zone ahead. So this is currently what the configuration of the intersection looks like. When we do these improvements through safety programs, we continue to monitor and analyze the effectiveness of those improvements. And as a result of that, quick summary here of what we're looking at. We're seeing about 75% of the traffic is running north-south on Road 140, and then about 27% is running east-west on 240. So there's a bit of a incompatibility or an inequality between the balance of the traffic there. So that's the reason primarily why the Road 140 was a non-stop controlled intersection there instead of a four-way stop. There is a bit of a collision history at this intersection. In the previous 10 years, we've seen 25 reported collisions that we have records of. The majority of those collisions were of the lower severity type, property damage only, or complaint of pain, which is a classification that CHP gives the different types of accident results. Unfortunately, we did recently have one collision with a fatality at the intersection here. So as a result of that analysis, we're now proposing a four-way stop at the intersection. Here's a preliminary plan of what that would look like. You can see the four-way stop. There's a bit of a splitter island or a pork chop island on that northwest quadrant there. As we get into a bit more detail, we're finding out that there's some utility conflicts, so we probably won't be able to do that right turn lane, but we will have that splitter island if approved. That allows the stop sign to be moved further to the east out into traffic for better visibility. And it also provides a little bit more channelization for some conflicting traffic cues, which you'll see in a couple. So this is roughly what the layout of that would look like. In addition to that, the stop sign at the particular intersection, we were also kind of zoomed back out a little bit, and we're looking, are there any other improvements we can make to the traffic operations in the area here? And one of those is a no stopping area along the south side of Avenue 240 across the street from the school. What happens is a lot of parents will drop their students off on that school side or on that side of the road, and then the students try to get across the street there. In working with the school, we've discussed this, and we're proposing a no stopping zone along that side of the road there. This will prevent the parents from dropping off on that side. It may require a little bit of working with the school to kind of educate some of their staff to park further north, where I pointed out those other parking lots, and then potentially relocate or do something with that student drop-off area there that's real close to the intersection. So here's a couple photos. You can see in the morning or in the afternoon when they're picking up or dropping off students, the parents are queuing up and then actually sticking out into the intersection away. So moving that drop-off zone away from the intersection will really improve the safety at the area. Currently, the road does actually clip a little bit of school property. So the road's paved out there. Their fence is set back. So we're working with the school to eventually have them dedicate just a small corner, probably 25 by 25 square feet, something like that, to dedicate that to the road right away to clean that up a little bit as well. So that's kind of the summary of what we're looking at here. The first three items are CEQA related. I would like to request a modification as was written in your agenda item. We had no parking. As we look at this a little bit further, we determined that no stopping would be a more appropriate designation for that because it's not likely that they're going to actually park and leave their car. It's more of a stop and let the kids out. So that would be a one change to the request here. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Sure, go ahead if you have questions.
As I looked at this, I'm fully supportive of what the proposal is here today, but also it strikes me that the school really need to look at their own internal operations because as I look at it, they do not have enough space there for the drop-off facility. I know other schools that have worked very diligently to deal with those issues and get off of the active highways and get onto to the side streets when they're able to do that. But in this case, they don't really have a lot of room for them to pull off. So as I see cars backed up, I see why that happens because there's not enough space on the site of the school itself to take more of these vehicles. And so I just would urge the district also to look at opportunities to revamp some of their own operations. I think they've got basketball courts there or something. Maybe they could utilize some of that. But it is a partnership situation. I think this is a good move of the county to work with the district and help to improve safety. But again, some of that will fall to there's only so much we can do, and there may be more things the school can also do to help the situation.
I was just going to add, I really appreciate RMA coming to the table very quickly and partnering with the school district in Sundale. There is a lot of concern in this area. There are students at Sundale from all over the county that go to the school. And I know that one of the first and foremost concerns of the school is the safety of their children and also the safety of the parents. And regardless of the circumstances around any of the accidents in the history, there's an opportunity to improve the safety both for current students and future students at the school. And I really appreciate the school district coming to the table and being willing to make changes on their property and how their school operates and to do it very quickly so that the safety of the kids and the parents too can be improved. So I appreciate specifically Superintendent Ruford and your willingness to come forward and to kind of set a motion aside for a second and just to really look at what we can do together to make this better for everyone. So with that, I would like to open it up to public comment and ask anyone to come forward who's willing to or wishing to speak related to this item.
My name is Terry Rufert. I'm the superintendent in Sundale Union Elementary School District, and I heard what you said, Supervisor Worthley, and we agree. We agree that there are some changes that need to be made. We do have some space. It's just not necessarily used, so there's some education that has to do with our staff and our students. But we do have a plan, as was spoken, to take the one drop-off and totally close that off. So that wouldn't even be there. So we're going to continue to work with the county for suggestions and to improve the parking and the safety. So I really would encourage that this would get passed through. I've been at Sundale for 23 years, and we've been working on this since I have been there. So I appreciate Supervisor Vanderpool for when I reached out and talked to him for opening up that with RMA and for us to be able to come to some conclusions. And I can say that I do a lot of work for education at the state level and also at the federal level, and this was the smoothest one I've ever dealt with as far as all working together and trying to come up with a solution that best fits. And we all have to do a little bit of work, and so I appreciate that from the county, and it's really my first experience doing that as a superintendent. When we worked on it before I was a principal. So I really do appreciate it. This board and the RMA management has done a phenomenal job working with us, so thank you.
Any additional public comments this morning? Please come forward, state your name and address. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, supervisors and community. Hoorah to Strathmore. I am married into the Strathmore community, so my alumni is my husband. So hoorah to them. And I really, really appreciate the supervisors and Sundale for taking this measures to do these things, because the fatality was my grandson. And I don't want anything like this to happen to any other future students there, community, parents, grandparents. I really don't want them to have to go through what we went through. And I really appreciate such aggressive timing on this, that to take these measures quickly, so that nothing else happens to any other future families or students. And I cannot thank Sundale School enough for their aggressiveness in addressing this issue as quickly as they have. And again, we'll be at the parade on Saturday. And Jaden, we're going to get those lights up for you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Are there any additional public comments here today?
Hello, my name is Norma Gaona. I live across the street from Sundale School. Excuse me. Anyways, I appreciate everything that the school and everybody's doing for the lights there. I've lived there since 1979. I have seen an umpteen accidents, and I have always tried to help all the people that have been in these accidents. And I appreciate all the lights and everything that the school and everybody's trying to pass through. But I will say, in regard to the stop signs that are being put up, I think I'm putting my 2 cents where they don't belong, I guess, but I think those stop signs should have these blinking red lights that go continuously. I think they're go off and on with solar. I'm not positive, but out there on that particular corner, it gets extremely, extremely foggy. I have horses, and they're about 300 feet behind my house. And I can't see the barn, I can't see the horses sometimes because of the fog. And in regard to the little lights that are being put on, the yellow lights, I don't know if those will be able to be seen, but it is a very, very dangerous corner. I don't know that the signs will be able to be visible to anybody until they're on top of them. Even that red thingy that they painted or whatever they did on the post that holds the red sign up, I really believe that since you're not able to put stoplights there on that corner, I don't know if it would help or would not help, but at least put those blinking lights. I will say that I go to the casino once a month, and when I come home in the wintertime, I can see those blinking red lights around those stop signs that it comes to that Avenue 16 or Road 16, whatever that is, and the Tulare Lindsay Highway. I can see those blinking red lights around those signs. And naturally you stop. I think it would be help a little bit if those lights would be put around the stop signs, because like I said, it gets extremely, extremely foggy there. I can't see the school, and I'm 19 feet from the highway. That's how close my house is. And I have had people practically next to my bedroom window. One car came 18 inches from my bedroom window one night. And so it's just really a bad corner, and I can see it during the some winter time when the schools go in there to get the children. I don't know how they turn that corner. So it's just a bad corner. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any additional public comments today related to this item? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public comment period and bring it back to the board for formal action. And one real quick thing I do want to follow up with Reed, a real quick question before we approve or take a vote on this item. What is the timing of all of this?
We are planning and prepared to put the stop sign in on a temporary basis early next week, and then some of the other additional improvements, some of the flashing beacons and whatnot, would be early next year.
Okay, great. So basically this is a perfect time to be doing this because of the school being out for winter break, and so hopefully parents and families will see these various changes taking place and be ready and able to go once school returns for this new pattern that's going to be created around the school.
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Sure, I would move to approve the not only the way it was stated, but as it was amended by our RMA director to no stopping signs on those cases.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Worthley.
Second that.
A second by Supervisor Ennis. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously, 5-0. Thank you very much. We will now take up our 9:30 timed items.
Do consent?
I'm sorry. We will take up consent real quick. Item number 15. Deanne would like to make a comment real quick related to that item.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is an item to approve an annual certification statement, and we would like to point out to the board that on October 13, 2017, the Child Care Council on Child and Youth Development confirmed that the members were appropriate for each of the defined categories required by the Education Code and approved the certification statement as true and correct, and this certification was approved by the Superintendent of Schools, Jim Vidak, on November 7th of 2017.
Okay. Any additional items to be commented on or removed or corrected from the consent calendar by members of the board or members of the public?
Move for approval.
Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. I have a motion from Supervisor Ennis.
Second.
A second by Supervisor Shucklin. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously for the consent calendar. We will now take up item number 5, which is a public hearing and a request from the Resource Management Agency to consider vesting tentative subdivision tract map number VTSM 17-003 for Self-Help Enterprises proposed 100% affordable housing project consisting of 37 single-family residential lots on a 7-acre parcel located along the south side of Avenue 413 east of Road 124 in Orosi. I was just going to read the sentence, but that had a lot of periods, commas, and I want to make sure I got it right. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mike Washam, RMA Associate Director, Chairman Vanderpool, Board, Mr. CEO, County Council. Today for your consideration is a vesting tentative subdivision map for Self-Help Enterprises in the project's located in Orosi. Here's an aerial shot of where the project site is. It's along the south side of Avenue 413 east of Road 124. Just to summarize the project, this is a Self-Help Enterprises project. It's a 37-lot housing project on a vacant 7.4-acre parcel in Orosi. As far as the general plan, it is consistent with the general plan. It's within the Cutler-Orosi urban boundary area and designates the site as residential. The proposed 100% affordable housing project will further the goals of the adopted housing element of Tulare County as well. It's also in compliance with the zoning ordinance. The site is zoned R1 for single-family residential, and it's surrounded by R1 to the north, east, south, and on the west it's zone C2 for the swap meet is located there. Again, it's 37 lots ranging in size from 5,000 square feet to 11,360 square feet. There's a bonus density because normally our lot size is a minimum of 6,000 square feet, but because of this density, there's going to be a restriction for the affordability for 30 years on these lots. The utilities for the site are for the water and sewer. The Orosi PUD district has provided a will serve letter. Electricity is provided through SoCal Edison.
It'd be PG&E.
Is it PG&E?
Yes,
Okay.
that's PG&E.
All right, we'll correct that. And the gas is through Southern California Gas. The CEQA document for this is a project's categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to the infill exemption. And this hearing was legally noticed in according to law. Here's a shot of an overlay of what the map would look like on an aerial. And here's that actual map. So really that sums it up. I know that the applicant is here, and I believe the engineering firm is here as well, so if they provide that. So staff's recommendation, if there's no questions, to open the public hearing for testimony.
Okay, any questions or comments by board members? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing related to this item and ask for any public comment. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Betsy McGovern Garcia. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for Self-Help Enterprises. I want to just take a moment and thank you this morning for reviewing this item. I'd also like to thank the RMA staff and leadership for being a pleasure to work with, as always, when we're processing these subdivision maps. I'd like to update you on some other activities that we have going on in Tulare County. We're actively under construction on 11 single-family homes in the community of Traver. We recently started construction on 10 homes in Woodlake, and thank you, Supervisor Worthley, for coming out to that groundbreaking. We continue to market for the remaining 60 single-family homes in Woodlake and are excited to assist those families in achieving their goals of home ownership. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our 2 rental projects that are under construction. If you've been out to the community of Dinuba at Davis and Crawford, we have 44 units under construction. We also have 50 units of rental housing under construction in Lindsay at the corner of Westwood and Hermosa. I'm excited to work with the community of Lindsay to put in a roundabout at that intersection. Both of those were Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities grant recipients, and we're excited to pursue that funding in January for a project in Goshen, our next phase of 66 units of rental housing. So hopefully I'll be standing in front of you in January with that project. The project in Orosi, as mentioned, will provide 37 home ownership opportunities for working families in the community of Orosi. We've developed over 159 homes already in the Cutler-Orosi area, and we're excited about this project. So again, I want to thank you for your leadership and just let you know that we're excited about what we can accomplish together in 2018. And if you have any questions, I'm available.
Any questions or comments for the speaker? Thank you, Betsy. Any additional public comments related to this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for direction.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just make a few comments. One is a great project to be one that is an infill type project. As you looked on that map, you can see that, and there's another rather large green area. If you might have noticed that to the north of that, that's actually a school site, so it's not open ground, and so this really fills in that area. I'm very excited that they were able to get the will serve letters from the CSD, and because I know that's been an issue there. This is the first new construction, I think, probably in about 10, 15 years in the area, besides maybe individual homes, because there's been a real problem of having sufficient water supplies and sewer capacity for these projects. So I'm very excited about that. I was able to speak briefly at the groundbreaking ceremony in Woodlake the other day, and I'm not taking credit for this because I heard somebody else say it, but I thought it was really very accurate. The California dream, which is home ownership, is very, very difficult to achieve in most of California. And so the comment was made that the dream has become a mirage. But I'm happy to say that in Tulare County, affordable home ownership is a reality. And thank you to Self-Help for being a major player in that role of providing affordable housing. And it's such a great thing because, again, in so many parts of the state of California, we were talking about this the other day. You could be, as a school teacher, for instance, how do you buy a home in Southern California, Northern California? But in here, you can do that. On a teacher's salary, you can be buying a home. So that's something for us to be proud of, but it only happens if we continue to build so that we can continue to meet the demand and be able to provide that housing. So thank you, Self-Help. I'm very supportive of this project and grateful for what they're doing by the way, the project in Dinuba is absolutely stunning. It's really amazing when you get a chance to look at that. It's really going to be a beautiful project. So thank you. And if there's no other comments,
the only other comment I would make is we'd welcome you in District 2 as well, specifically in Early Martin. If you have any tricks to getting a will serve letter down there, please let me know. With that, Chair will entertain direction. I have a motion from Supervisor Worthley, a second by Supervisor Shucklian. She seconded it earlier, Mr. Ennis, so sorry about that. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Betsy. We will now move on to item number 6, which is a public hearing, a request from the Resource Management Agency to certify that the final environmental impact report has been completed in compliance with CEQA. The final environmental impact report was presented to the Board of Supervisors, and that the Board of Supervisors reviewed and considered information contained in the final environmental impact report prior to approving the project. Another long one. Go ahead, Mike, whenever you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, good.
Again, for the record, Mike Watcham, RMA Associate Director. Today, for your consideration, is the final environmental impact report for a proposed Matheny Track wastewater system. Here's a couple of aerials of the site. You can see the where Matheny Track is located a little south of the city of Tulare, and you can see the wastewater plant a little bit to the northwest of Matheny Track, just to get your aerial location here. The summary is that the County of Tulare applied for a grant from the State Water Resources Control Board in 2012 to propose preparing a feasibility study to analyze the wastewater treatment needs for Matheny Track. The feasibility study determined that the only feasible way would be to extend sewer service to Matheny Track is to connect to the community of the city of Tulare's municipal wastewater treatment plant. During this process of the feasibility study, the city requested that a capacity study be conducted to evaluate if their municipal wastewater treatment system could accommodate providing the additional sewer service to Matheny Track residents. The study indicated that a new trunk line would need to be installed along Page Avenue to accommodate the additional sewer flows. The proposed trunk line would substantially increase the overall cost of the project by 19 to 24 million, depending on what size capacity pipe was put in. City of Tulare officials have indicated that they cannot offer a will serve at this time or commit to extending sewer service, and it's not willing to commit to seeking a financial solution. Both of those are essential elements required to move forward with a construction application. So even though we're not going forward at this time, it's really critical to adopt and certify the final EIR for this proposed project. So should funding come available for construction, and at that time that the city is willing to and able to provide service and participate in the construction project, we would already have the environmental document in place. So that's why we're coming forward today for this. So the environmental summary is that as lead agency, the county assumed the responsibility to complete the environmental document. The feasibility study, the draft EIR was originally the notice of availability went out in June of this year for a 45-day review period. Additional information was received at the end of that 45-day, and that additional information was that supplemental study, which is part of today. You're accepting that report. So we recirculated. So we recirculated again back on October 24th, and posted it again on the RMA website and received comments. And after staff completed, after the review period was ended, staff completed responses to comments. And so the final EIR has been drafted for your consideration today. It concludes that the proposed system project would result in no substantial impact to the environment. So as proposed, the Matheny wastewater system project would have no significant and unavoidable impacts or effects. So a statement of overriding consideration is not necessary or required as part of this final EIR. And that would conclude staff's report. If there's any questions, we'd recommend opening up public testimony.
Any comments or questions from board members?
Oh, wait.
Okay, I'll wait until after the public hearing. So with that, I will now open the public hearing and invite any public comments related to this item. If there are any, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing no public comment, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion and action. I do want to make comments related to this and just say that I did have the opportunity to sit down and meet with the city manager of the city of Tulare numerous times regarding this project, and I do think there is a willingness to work with the county and a willingness to provide the service to Matheny Track residents, and so I think I first of all commend city staff for being willing to do so. However, there is a hesitancy to move forward when there would be costs borne by the residents of the city of Tulare to provide this service and not receiving any assistance from the state or federal government to help make this be a cost-neutral item for them. I think that the city of Tulare has the willingness, just the financial ability, and I don't blame them for not having that financial ability or financial willingness to move forward with this without a no-cost option for the residents in the city of Tulare. So, any additional comments?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that I certainly understand the constraints of finance that all of government has, including the city of Tulare. What I'm hoping, though, is that there is a good faith desire to actually get this done, because one can use that as an excuse for not doing anything. You can't move at all because we don't have the dollars. But I mean, hopefully, and that would be demonstrated to me by Tulare's willingness to engage with the county to perhaps partner or participate or pursue grant funding that would be available for this. Because, I mean, it's one thing to say, yeah, we're quite willing, but if they're not going to get off their hands and do anything to make this happen, then that is an indication to me that there really is not a desire to get this done.
And I can tell you from my conversations, there truly is a desire, and it's actually demonstrated more so than just a willingness to get off their hands. If you look at what they've done with Matheny Tract in providing water, they've actually connected the city of Tulare.
I don't think we want to go there, Mr. Chairman, because that's not been a simple process.
Well,
and
but
it did take a little bit of coercion to get
it
done.
It has taken time to get there, but the administration has changed in the city of Tulare. But I will say the point that I was making and getting to is that they have found with Matheny Tract residents that the paying rate of that customer base is actually better than the entire city as a whole. So that specific segment of the population. So there would be good faith that sewer customers and sewer paying would be very, very much the same and consistent, and improve the overall base, and actually probably end up helping the city of Tulare ratepayers with that system if that funding were to come to help them.
And I was going to say that that's one of the things you have to look at too is, again, this is for the city of Tulare to look at, but when you look at financial wherewithal, generally speaking, the more people you have paying into a system, the better off everybody benefits from that. That should be part of the calculation in terms of saying, well, we don't want to spend $1. Well, at the same time, there may be a benefit to including Matheny Tract within their overall payer base as providing additional revenue for them. So, again, I just look for good faith on the part of the city. Sure. And I've only got one more year to look at it, but I mean, I think the board needs to. I mean, cause again, it has not always been. It's sometimes been a rocky road, and you know, we stand ready to work with the city of Tulare to help the people of Matheny Tract. And I just look forward to that going forward. That would be those opportunities would present themselves.
Sure, it's a very valuable service to be provided to Matheny Tract, and I hope that it will get to their residents at some point. Supervisor Crocker.
I just want to echo what Supervisor Worthley said. The line that really kind of concerned me in the presentation was the city of Tulare is not willing to commit to seek a fiscal solution. So I just strongly encourage them, if that's changed since this presentation was written, then we've got a lot of cities that we work very well with. We had the opportunity to honor Mike Olmos earlier this morning, and I think that demonstrates how we've been able to work with some of our other cities. And I hope that the city of Tulare will work with seeking some type of grant solutions, because I don't know that what has been presented has been something that would be a burden on the city of Tulare, but to work together to seek state funds and federal funds to make sure that we can help out the residents of Matheny.
My understanding too is that this land that is between Tulare and Matheny Tract eventually will become industrial site, and so I hope they're thinking of the future of bringing in businesses and stuff, and with that, they're going to have to put a sewer line out there. So this could be, we could work together on this project, or we won't work at all. I mean, to me, they need to know that if they want to move forward and they want to grow, they're going to have to put a little bit of money in the tank too, besides the county. But I think hopefully we will be able to work together in the future. I hope it doesn't get We didn't go there on the water deal, but I hope it doesn't get to that point. But I think we can work together, and I think there is grant opportunities out there to make this thing move forward. It's a groundwater problem with the septic tanks. It's a lot of things that go into this, so hopefully we'll be able to come to some kind of
And there's a lot of, just one more thing, there's there's such a focus right now on disadvantaged communities at the state level. That's not always been there, and there's no guarantee it always will be there. So again, we want to be timely in looking at those opportunities that might present themselves to be able to seek this funding. So that's it.
I just want to, I trust your confidence in your face-to-face with City Manager Carlini and all, and I agree with Supervisor Crocker, but I also trust that, with this, that the City of Tulare will seek out a way to work with us in the future.
Yeah, and I think I just have to, the comment was made about honoring Mike Olmos. One of the things Mike mentioned in his commentary was that the relationship between the City of Visalia and the county had not always been a good one. Administrations change, people change. But I can tell you that in my workings with the City of Tulare administration that is currently in place, there is a willingness to work with the county and other bodies to get projects accomplished. I can refer to a specific situation in the unincorporated area east of Tulare with the East Tulare Villas, who happen to be a customer of Cal Water and had a well problem go south and were unable to provide service to that customer base. City of Tulare has indicated a willingness to step up on a temporary basis, provide water, allow Cal Water to make the appropriate repairs, and then ultimately will benefit later on down the road. So with this new administration, I do feel very confident in a willingness to work with the county. So
move approval, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I have a motion by. I did close the public hearing before we started comments. So
I move
Supervisor Wardley has made a motion, seconded by Supervisor Shuckling. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we will now move on to item 7, which is a request from the Resource Management Agency to certify, and this is almost the exact same agenda item, but specifically related to the community of Traver.
Thank you, Chairman. Mike Washam, RMA. For consideration today is a proposed Traver Community Wastewater Treatment System Improvement Project, for the final EIR for that. Again, I'm showing you the locational where Traver's located, and on the right-hand side, you can see the yellow outline is where the wastewater plant is, as it's located east of the community. So just a project summary on this is that the county has submitted a financial assistance application to the State Water Resources Control Board for a Clean Water State Revolving Grant for planning and designing of improvements of the Traver Community Wastewater System. County entered into an agreement with ACOM to complete a feasibility report. The general purpose of this engineering feasibility study is to analyze the wastewater treatment and capacity needs of the community, identify possible solutions, analyze alternatives, and recommend a preferred alternative. The proposed project will result in improvements which will likely be completed in phases to the existing community wastewater collection system and wastewater treatment plant, to extend services to the existing businesses along the highway that are currently not being served, and to serve infill areas within the community that are expected to develop out consistent with the Traver Community Plan update of 2014. Improvements to the wastewater treatment plant are needed to improve the water quality, increase capacity, and system reliability while increasing efficiencies and effectiveness so that the wastewater treatment plant is better able to meet the needs of the community. The environmental summary is that as lead agency, again, the county is preparing the appropriate environmental document. The draft EIR for the feasibility study was, the notice of availability was published on October 13th. The review period ran, we had a shortened review period, 30 days, November 13th. Responded to all comments, and we have the final EIR for your consideration. The final EIR concludes that there is no substantial impact on the environment as proposed, and therefore no significant or unavoidable effects, and there is no statement of overriding consideration because it's not necessary in this case. That concludes the overall summary of the draft EIR, final EIR that's for your consideration. Our RMA would like to come before your board in January to give you really an overall update regarding this proposed project. We've been in discussions with, as we mentioned, that we've applied for a fiscal assistance on this, so we've had ongoing discussions with the state, so we're going through that still, and we'd like to give a presentation in January to the board to update where we are with that. But at this point, we finalized the process, and we want to get the environmental document wrapped up.
Any questions from board members at this time? If not, I will open the public hearing and ask if there are any public comments related to this item. Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for
approval.
discussion and action. I have a motion from Supervisor Innes.
Second, and before, just a quick comment, I want to thank the staff for doing this. I know this has been a long, sort of tedious process, and Traver's a challenging community, sitting adjacent to the 99 and having a railroad track going through the middle of it. And this, we really missed some opportunities when we had the days of redevelopment when we didn't do more in the community. But I honestly think as we go looking forward along the corridor plan that we adopted as our general plan, Traver has a real rosy future. I mean, because of its location, it's far enough away from the city of Kingsburg, far enough away from the city of and the community of Goshen and Visalia, that it really has some opportunity to benefit from its presence on the 99. And this is a project which is very significant and important for the community. And again, I'm grateful for getting this far. I know we've got more hurdles to overcome, but anyway, just very supportive and thankful.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Ennis, a second by Supervisor Worthley. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
Traver will rise again.
We will move on from the Traver Rising comment to item 30, which is a request from the Treasurer Tax Collector to approve and ratify the Treasurer's 2010 investment in a promissory note and loan agreement with the Tulare County Transportation Authority for the advancement of Measure R funds in the amount of $10 million for a term of 10 years. Mr. Cook.
Good morning.
Hi.
Cass Cook, Auditor, Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector.
Clean cut. Clean cut.
Clean,
yeah.
Clean cut, Cass Cook.
Clean cut, Cass Cook.
Pick the peck of pickled peppers.
To put it simply, this item is a request for ratification from the board on an investment within the county investment pool. One of the duties of the treasurer is the management of the treasury pool, and that pool is regulated by California Government Code, as well as the investment policy of the county, which is approved by the Board of Supervisors. The California Government Code regulates the types of investments we can purchase, as well as the length of the investment. We are limited to a 5-year maturity for any investment. So if we were to buy an investment today, it would have to mature within 5 years. Anything past that would require board approval. So having set that foundation, a little bit of background about this investment. Back in 2009-2010, the TCTA, the Tulare County Transportation Authority, was looking to meet some cash flow needs. My understanding is they went to the markets, talked to banks, and when you go to a bank, there are fees, there are overhead, administration charges. Additionally, the rates that you get from a bank are going to be higher than if you come to the county pool. So they approached us about this loan, or from our side, investment, and we were able to purchase this investment and give them a lower, the fee is nominal, and the interest rate that they pay was a lot lower than what they were going to have to pay to a bank or a bondholder. So it was a good deal from our side. It's a good deal on their side. They're paying a lower rate, and we're actually getting a rate that is 50 basis points or a half percentage above what we get on our average pool amount. So it's a good deal for us, good deal for them. One of my goals as treasurer this upcoming year is to look at our investment pool. Our pool approaches $1.5 billion. So little tweaks to the pool have a significant impact on the investment returns that we get that will go to county coffers as well as schools and the special districts, because they are all part of this pool. Well, going through the pool, this item I noticed, and I had some concern based on that maturity date. So I contacted county council, and in consultation with them, we thought it would be best to bring this item before a board for approval. The loan agreement was dated in 2010. Since that time, in 2000, and it was to mature in 3 years, so it was fine at that point. In 2013, there was an amendment to extend the maturity date to 2016. A year later, in 2014, there was another extension to 2018. At the beginning in 2010, this was a $20 million investment. They paid, in 2014, they paid $10 million of that principal down. So now what we're looking at is $10 million. In the spring of 17, there was another amendment to push out the maturity date to 2020. So this investment began in 2010, and now we're looking at a date of a 2020 maturity. I had concern about my authority to purchase this investment, not about the investment itself. It's a great investment, works well for the TCTA. It's great for us. We do get yearly financials from them. We do get a rating from Standard & Poor's. They have a AA- rating on this. So we have every confidence in their ability to repay the investment. And in fact, they have been making quarterly payments all along. So the concern of mine is not with the investment itself, it's with my authority to authorize that investment. So my recommendation or request is for board approval of an investment that is currently sitting in the investment pool. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Any questions or comments, Supervisor Crocker?
Just a comment. I appreciate you trying to go through the proper procedure and protocol. I know sometimes that's a little bit onerous and difficult, not just for you, but for other department heads, and I appreciate that effort.
And yeah, I echo those comments, and thank you for making this presentation. The only hesitancy I have a little bit is with the director of TCAG, but beyond that, everything else seems good with this. But no, you said it very well in saying that it was. This is a very good thing for the overall pool, and this is a very good thing for TCAG as a member of that body. I know that it is a benefit to them as well. So, with that, are there any public comments related to this? Okay, seeing none, Chair will entertain direction. I have a motion by Supervisor Ennis, a second by Supervisor Crocker. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, next we're going to move on to take up item 31. I do have advice from council that we need to go into closed session prior to the consideration of this item. Or
we'll do it after the presentation.
You want to do it after the presentation? Okay, before the vote. This is a request to receive a report from General Services Agency regarding General Services Agency Property Management Real Estate Program.
That's right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Spada, Ms. Peterson, John Hess, General Services Agency Director. This presentation will be regarding the property management program, specifically how we can maximize our properties that we own. So the county, quick introduction or overview of the presentation. We'll go through some of the activities that I presented back in June and provide an update as to some of those projects and properties as to where they are today. So in June, we reviewed a variety of the county's properties and identified various different methods of maximizing their use. How could we generate one-time or ongoing revenues from those properties or use them for higher and better uses for the county? The 4 activities that we did were listed here. We looked generally at that as a concept. We then looked at the former courthouse. Then we looked at the county's acquisition process. And finally, we identified some uses for the Porterville Justice Partners. And we'll go into some of those today. Some of those have been completed since that time. So the county has a bunch of properties that we own, the majority of which are used for their intended purposes. 300 properties, about 321 specifically, and most of them are used for their purposes. So we really only have 10 to 15, maybe 20 properties that could be utilized for a higher and better purpose in the end. So
for John,
I'm busy.
That was rude, Dan.
Is that what you do when we call?
Man. Okay, so there are several properties that we could generate one-time and ongoing revenues, and that's the premise behind the presentation today. So some of the properties, we'll have 2 slides to go through some of the properties here. The first one is the historic Courthouse Square. You're familiar with that. We've gone through the RFP process. Today we're going to be discussing the sales contract and seeking approval for that. In the city of Tulare, there is a former state courthouse that is vacant. We would like in the next few months to come back and ask for that to be declared surplus to our needs and go through the sales process for that building. Not excessively marketable, but it could have the opportunity to sell it, generate some small one-time money for us there, and at least see what the market is for that building. The Porterville Courthouse, which is similar to the Tulare Courthouse, is also vacant. That, in a few slides, we'll go into the Porterville Justice Partners more thoroughly, could be retained depending on what the end use is for our needs in Porterville for our public defender and district attorney and so forth. In addition, we have parking areas at the Tulare Acres building that are available for a ground lease. I'm going to be asking for approval for an RFP this morning. Farming areas around Government Plaza, those are very, very prime real estate in the city of Visalia, and those would most likely be used for future sale. There's probably not a significant need for county development at that magnitude, maybe some of it. Those properties, or that property, will continue to accrue in value over the next 5 to 10 years rather significantly as Visalia grows down in that direction. Harmon Field, we've remediated the property there, so in the coming future we could seek to develop it for county purposes, which is probably less likely. The more functional use would be to sell it for commercial development. Would probably be the highest and best use there. Finally, the last property that that is underutilized, that could be better utilized, is the vacant area here on the Civic Center complex towards the west of this building. That property would probably be the highest best uses for future county purposes to be identified through space planning efforts. So we'll start with historic Courthouse Square. As you're familiar, we did the RFP, selected the respondent in October, and I believe they're in the audience this morning if we have any questions for them as well. So presently we're ready to consider the draft sales agreement. These are the major details of that agreement. There are still some items that we'd like to consult with the board, and I believe that'll be done later this morning. So effective date would be January 1st, purchase price of $2.3 million, just above, initial deposit of $25,000, second deposit of $250,000, closing date of August 1, which due diligence closing a month before. Right of first refusal will be granted to the county, and deed restrictions and covenants would be used to protect the historic elements of the building. A couple graphics regarding the property as well as the proposed project that the developer will be doing. This shows the property, and if you're familiar with it, the taller building, of course, is the 4-story, and the shorter building, the larger roof line, is the probation building. We own the parking lot to the north, which is included in this activity. This is the developer's property plan. North is to the left on this one, so it's oriented a little differently. The Darling is the name of the hotel that they're going to be developing with a potential outside pool and patio, and then office and retail at the probation building. This is the bottom floor, so it's a split-level property. This is the first kind of below-ground floor. This would be the main sort of mixed-use part of the facility, including the day spa, the meeting rooms, dining room, kitchen. So that would be sort of the mixed part of the property at the bottom. The ground floor, which is just above the sidewalk, this would be your main lobby entrance. It's the former kind of grand entrance of the building. It would still continue to be used for that purpose, with some suites as well there. Third and fourth floor would be also hotel suites. And then the fifth floor would be, which is really the rooftop and mechanical area, would be a rooftop patio and lounge. So if approved by the board, the developer, Elderwood Capital, would execute the sales agreement. Due diligence process, which includes property valuations, assessments, would begin immediately, and that would be completed July 1. Contract would be complete August 1st. Development project is anticipated to take 2 years. The right of first refusal would be for a period of 3 years, giving us a little bit of a buffer to ensure we had that protection even through their development period. Probation would lease their space until such time as we were able to identify a solution for their future space needs. So our recommendation is to approve the sales agreement pending final review. Moving to Porterville. In Porterville, as I've mentioned before, there's a variety of public safety departments there: district attorney, public defender, probation, and county council that provide services to the courthouse. As the courthouse grows, our Legal services will grow as well. They're currently occupying space in the property owned by Sierra View. That is in a month-to-month tenancy, so that's a risky position for the county to be in as a tenant. So in June, the board directed staff to evaluate property options to give us some protection going forward. We've identified some of those and presented some to the ad hoc committee. We received a letter of interest from a developer in October to this effect who owns some property in Porterville or has interest in property in Porterville and downtown adjacent to the courthouse and is presenting an option for us to build that property, to build customized to our needs, that would be available to our purchase if we wanted at any time, but otherwise would be a property that we would lease from them. This would, recommended at least, require selling the former courthouse and using that money to offset either our purchase price or the ongoing rent we'd have to pay there because it would become surplus to our needs, the Morton Street Courthouse. So our recommendation at this time is to continue to work with this developer and the ad hoc committee to refine their proposal or to determine if it's viable for the county. No specific action at this time, just an update. So then Tulare Acres at the Cigna building, we have two different things that we're going to be asking for today. First one is an RFP to do a ground lease. We have, as the graphic shows here, about 3 acres to the north, plus or minus. The final amount is still subject to parking considerations, but it would not fluctuate significantly. So what we would want to do there is obtain proposals from development companies who are interested in leasing the property from us and then undertaking all of the development under their responsibilities. All the management of the property would be their responsibility, and we'd retain an annual lease payment, kind of an easy way to generate some ongoing revenue off that property that we purchased a couple years ago. Responses would be due in April, and we would review that response with the existing countywide space and property ad hoc committee. And so the recommendation will be to approve and release that RFP. Also at the Cigna building, we have 3 major tenants in there, as well as, of course, Sheriff and Fire have relocated very recently into that building. The leases generate approximately $1.25 million in annual net operating income, actual what we put into the bank after we paid all of our financial responsibilities. We have approximately $1.1 million in fund balance right now for the property, and in addition, we have about 19 or 20,000 square feet available of vacant property, a 15,000 open area and a 4,000 open area. Our recommendation right now is to list both of those at this time to see if we can generate any interest commercially for that, and then perhaps retain one or both of those for the county purposes, which are also going to be identified through the space planning effort as well. Possibly the 4,000 in particular may be useful for our purposes as identified into the future. The 15,000 is definitely marketable for quite a bit of money for us to continue on with our ongoing revenue. So our recommendation there is to proceed with the listing agent and list those properties for availability. So really quickly, future space planning needs. No action today, just a verbal update as to where we are as even the next presentation that I'll be making about the countywide space improvement project, phase 2, we have a lot of movings going on throughout the county, and the 4-story itself has kind of caused or precipitated some additional moving of probation by displacing them. So in conjunction with the ad hoc committee, we've tried to identify as many of those that are moving over the next 3 to 5 years as possible and see if there's a creative solution that could solve all of those in as little activity as possible. So we're presently analyzing that to try and get as much as we can out of our efforts there. We project probably the next 3 to 6 months to have a better report back to the board through the ad hoc committee process for you on that. So just wanted to keep you apprised of that and keep that on your radar. So finally, this brings us to the conclusion requested action. The requested action is to receive this report, approve the sales agreement for the historic courthouse pending final review, authorize the chairman to sign the agreement, approve the release of an RFP for a ground lease development at the Cigna building, authorize staff to retain a commercial listing agent for vacant space at Cigna, and authorize staff to pursue other options for vacant properties, namely the Portable Justice Partners and the future space planning needs. So with that, happy to answer any questions or see if there's any questions for the developer as well.
Okay, before we, any questions or comments from board members?
Well, some general comments about the report. Thank you, John. I noticed we didn't mention there's 80 acres that we own adjacent to the government plaza property in the country, right? It's not in the city limits. That's not mentioned here as a surplus property. No, we're talking about 12 to 14 acres. That's that small portion that's around the government plaza and that's actually within the city limits. We have another 80 acres of ag property, which is outside the city limits. And I only bring it up just because I know we now receive revenue on that, but I mean, I don't know whether we're getting fair market value for rental or whether we think we're holding it, so rather than get a reasonable top dollar for it, we're getting less. I don't know what our circumstances are there. But one of the principles I wanted to get to really in saying all that was, and you brought this to my attention some time ago, which is it's one thing to have vacant property. It's another thing to have to spend the money to maintain that. And so one of the principles going forward should be whether or not we keep something or discard something or consider it surpluses, what are we spending to maintain that property? So it's a cost avoidance issue, right? Because I mentioned to you before you brought this to my attention about how, I said, well, what are we doing? I mean, we have all this revenue coming in, and it was kind of ginned up by the acres property we purchased in terms of how much that does bring in. And you said, well, yeah, well, overall, we're in a negative position. I said, what? Because we were still maintaining the elevators to the old courthouse and all these kinds of expenses. And I don't think the board had any idea that we were expending these kind of revenues, the monies, just to maintain these things. So to the extent that we look at something and see that it's costing us money, and I think about the courthouse in Tulare as being one of those, and the courthouse in Porterville, those expenses are things we need to get rid of. I mean, ASAP, because there's no point in us continuing to keep these properties if we don't see a future for them, and it's just costing us money to keep them. So I just think that's a general principle. I didn't really see it in here as far as the report, but I think that should be one of the guiding principles as we look going forward. What is it we consider surplus, and what do we do with it? The other thing is that in light of, and I realized laws can change, but given the current state of the law, which relates to prevailing wage obligations, anything that the county builds is going to cost 30-40% above market price because of having to pay prevailing wage. So that begs the question, why do we keep some of these parcels if they have a higher and better utility use right now and can be back on the property rolls, can provide us with revenue? And I'm thinking about the site that's adjacent here. A long time ago, we went through a study thing, and we said this is where we want to build out our entire, I started to say plantation, our own campus. But then the realization came along that, well, that's so expensive, and when you could go buy the Acres building for $15 million, that was a much better thing to do. And I also think about this property that's adjacent to us as for a long time it really wasn't very accessible, but now that Mineral King has been extended, it has great accessibility. And so I'm not sure we want to just say let's hang on to that for future development, because unless there's going to be a change in prevailing wage laws, I don't know why the county would want to do that when we can go out and buy something that's already built and remodel it and save ourselves a ton of money. So those are just some general thoughts that I have. But I think it's an evolving process, and we need to always be looking at that, and I appreciate you bringing it to our attention today.
Absolutely.
I have a question, Joe. It's become available, I believe, since we started all this, and that's the Hillman Center in Tulare. Is that, I know with the HCCA thing and all, is that vacant now? And
so
what's the story on that?
They are in breach of their lease. There's some lease complications there, surely, and it is still a cost to the county, but we are not generating the revenue to cover our costs. So we would be very interested in finding somebody that could take over that responsibility in the future, or if the Tulare Hospital, such time as they're able to resolve their concerns, or if they could restore their operations there as well, that would be best for us, because that's the best use for that property, is getting somebody there that can function as a clinic or a health provider.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional comments from Supervisor Crocker?
I have a few questions and a few comments. I think as the ad hoc, the space planning ad hoc committee, we've discussed and moving forward with evaluating surplus property, and hence why we're here today. So to Supervisor Worthley's comments, that's kind of what we're looking at and evaluating, and making sure that we're not putting money into bad sites that are unusable anymore. I do have a couple of questions regarding the agenda item. There was I wanted to check first with what our balance of account 522 is.
The future construction fund, I don't have that amount handy. I can get that and report.
That would be helpful. As well as, but we discussed when we created the trust count 596 earlier in the year, and I believe the comments that were provided is that it would primarily be for the site, but there would be flexibility to utilize for other capital project needs. And I just wanted clarification that that is correct.
Correct. The only payment that we've used that for at this time is some tenant improvements that were part of Cigna's contract. That is natural when you have a property that the income that you use a lot of times gets reused to offer tenant improvements to the property. So that's been the only expensive so far.
And then one last question. Do you recall what the length of the RFP for the 4-story was?
No, but it was shorter than what we would have done if we were to do it again today. Probably 4 to 6 weeks, which is why the RFP that we put for the Cigna property is much longer. It has a lot more time for the development companies to put their proposals together, work with any sub companies they need to do, or future tenants, so forth. So that was definitely a lesson we learned from the 4-story, to give more time to the developers.
Okay. And then just one last comment is, you know, I think that when we're looking at our property management, and I know we've discussed this at previous board meetings, but I think it's critical, and I chime in if you would like, Mr. Vice Chair. But the look of our facilities and maintaining them and making sure that we take a lot of pride in our county facilities is very important. I think it sets a tone for the rest of our community that we live in a great place, and that's Tulare County. And we at the county take that first and foremost. And so the landscaping and the aesthetics of facilities is something of great importance, I think, that we can't overlook. And so when we're looking at all our facilities, we need to make sure that we place an emphasis on that.
Absolutely. And I think, as we mentioned previously, this is the time to do it where we have all these space projects happening.
And real quick, just on the aesthetics note, you can pull up the slide with what we've thought of at the Cigna building. We're going to do the a Boudreaux face mosaic on the side of the Cigna building. And then we're going to do a mural of Kathleen Bell's laying over here at the county council. Okay, no, I'm kidding. But no, along those lines, I know that's one thing that HR was very passionate about doing was the mural in front of their building. I think that would be an interesting theme to try to continue at various county facilities, because it does beautify the community in addition to maintaining the landscaping and other aesthetic elements of various properties. So if we can incorporate that would be an interesting thing as well in the future. Supervisor,
and I'd like to add just a few things. I just talked to John last week about with the renovations at Government Plaza. I go to a lot of meetings there, and the landscape is really bad there, and we've talked, and that's something that will get put into there.
So in the presentation I'll be making after this one on the phase 2, we had some savings on the contract, and my recommendation is to utilize a portion of that to create some landscape and exterior improvements as well.
And I agree as far as the mural stuff. I do believe, though, in future when we do murals, we need to have, I don't know if we already have any guidelines for murals on our properties, but I think that's something that we should have some guidelines.
I agree.
And it should maybe, renditions should come before the board and be approved before they're put up.
So no stray cats in pictures anymore.
Possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, and to follow up a little bit with that, one of the things I've been thinking about as as I anticipate to be incoming chair is, I would like for all of our departments to do an evaluation of all of our facilities, because in many cases we have neglected our landscaping. I mean, it's like a tree dies and we eventually take it out and we don't replace it. And I think we need to look at all of our facilities. I mean, I know, but at the road yard, I mean, everybody's has a junk pile. I appreciate that. It doesn't have to be the first thing you see when you drive by the facility. I just think we need to go back with a fresh look and look at all of our facilities. And I mean, a lot of times you go to work every day and you're just not paying attention to something like that. But if you were to drive up and say, okay, I'm Joe Q. Public, I've never been to this facility before, I'm coming to Tulare County for the first time, what is my impression of the county on the basis of what I see as I drive up to this building? I think many of us would wince at what we see. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I drive by the juvenile facility every day, I burn when I go by that facility. It shouldn't be that way. And I mean, we've appropriately invested a tremendous amount of money on the interior of our facilities and upgrading them, which we should do. But I think just as importantly, we need to be looking at the exterior. So I'm very appreciative of the board members being supportive of that concept, because I think that needs to rise to the top as we move forward, and I think it will return tremendous investment back to the county in terms of goodwill in the community and improving. Again, if we think about, we want our people to be proud of where they work, and that begins when you drive up to the facility. And right now, I don't think that we're really meeting the bar. So, thanks.
Okay. Is there any public comment before the board goes into closed session? I see someone itching in the audience. Are you going to get up or are you going to stay seated, Mr. Matt? You can use either microphone.
I'm going to use that one.
You know, whatever you want. I just wanted to let you know both of them work.
Good to know. Thank you, Supervisor. Matt Ainley, representing Elderwood Capital here today. I guess I was more, if you guys had questions or anything in regards to that. I mean, I know that I've gone through some presentations with just a few of you guys, but real excited about the project. Even more exciting kind of things that have come up, since through the process, and we appreciate the staff time and effort. It's been trying to get through the PSA and get to this point, but we're ready to get going at the first of the year, hopefully, and already kind of started doing some preemptive structural analysis and some other things. So, anyways, welcome to
Matt,
answer questions.
I was on the ad hoc committee along with Supervisor Shuckley, and one of the questions that I had was regarding the timing of the proposal. Would you just go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so the plan is to obviously start going right away as soon as we get the PSA done and get through all the design and analysis phase. So, John mentioned a lot of those different things, but getting the reports and everything situated, we're hoping to be under construction pretty much as soon as we close escrow. And then what I've estimated right now is about a February 2020 date for being open. And so I think it's around an 18-month construction period. Hopefully it would be a little bit faster than that, but that's pending some of the reports and analysis, like to the extent of some of the remediation and some of the upgrades and things that would need to take place on the building that hopefully we'll start getting a better handle on. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully by the time I close escrow, I could come back and say, hey, we think it's 15 months or 12 months. But that was really, the estimate to get through the ADA.
So you are being aggressive in terms of moving it forward as quickly as possible then?
Yeah, totally. Great. I mean, the faster that we can get it done, the faster that there's hotel rooms and people eating there and money being paid back to the construction investment.
Fantastic. Supervisor Shuckley?
Yeah, Matt, the parking lot to the north?
Yeah.
What is the plan with that?
Like in the short term or long term?
I guess what I'm thinking in the short term, because, I notice, there's the drive-in, the little restaurant there, and it's used that area is used for that, and just other parking for downtown. Will it still be available for folks in the interim, and then it will be used, I suppose, for hotel parking and whatnot?
We were going to try and make that kind of exclusive for probation in the interim, but then in kind of the conversations and negotiations, it made it a little bit more sense to still try and keep, due to probably some of the ADA parking space and stuff, the east half of the central parking lot as more exclusive for probation during that period, and then the north parking lot would just still be essentially first come, first serve between probation and other businesses and construction parking and things like that. But we would still be
public parking.
We're going to try to primarily stage and store materials and things in kind of the west half of the central parking lot.
Okay.
So all that'll be fenced off. There'll be temp fencing kind of around that portion, and then probably around the north side of the courthouse square, around the kind of the granite coming back. And so we'll probably store and stage in that west parking lot and the north side of the building.
Well, you've certainly created a buzz throughout the community. I hope, and it's a positive buzz.
Yeah.
So I hope, I don't have any doubt, but I hope it also serves as motivation and incentive to get her done.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Matt.
for your comments,
Thank you.
Matt. Appreciate it. Any other public comments related to this item? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public comment period, bring it back to the board. Council has advised the board that we go into closed session.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go into closed session on items D and G. And I do not expect an announcement out, but I would like the opportunity to address you.
Okay, at this time, the board will briefly adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Yeah, it does.
Oh, well.
Okay. The board is now back in session. Time is 11:20.
Ooh, it's almost
I will
lunchtime.
look to council. Do you have any items you need to report out or
No, I do not.
discuss? Okay. Because this is negotiations, we did have the ability to go into closed session. John, would you like to continue your presentation, or do you have anything you need to add?
No, I think with the discussion we've had and the presentation that we've had this morning, as well as the words from Matt on behalf of the developer, I think that gives us the opportunity to move forward with the project and get it done, pending one or two changes, which we will discuss with the developer, and they don't seem to be significantly material, which I think gives us the opportunity to move forward.
Okay, great. Any additional public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll entertain direction from the board. Okay.
Do you want the condition that we just talked about, or
Does that need to be?
Subject to a final approval from County Council based upon the board's direction.
Oh, okay. Then that would be the motion.
Okay. Okay. So we have a motion by Supervisor Ennis, a second by Supervisor Shucklian. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on our agenda to the next agenda item. My iPad's running a little slow here.
So
could be operator error, but I do think it is more technical. We now have an item from item number 32, which is a request from the General Services Agency to award the contract for the countywide space improvement and relocation project phase 2 to the lowest responsible bidder, Forkham Mackey Construction Inc., in an amount not to exceed $5.425 million.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Hess.
members of the board, Mr. Spada, Ms. Peterson, John Hess. This matter is regarding the countywide space improvement project phase 2, construction contract and awarding to Forkham Mackey, or request to award to Forkham Mackey. So real quick, phase 1 included HRD, Cigna, Sheriff Fire, EOC. Those portions are complete. County Council will be complete in March, and County Council recently completed their temporary relocation. So a percentage of their office moved from one half of the building to the other, and now that newly vacated part of the building is under construction right now, and it'll be complete in March when all the moves happen again for them. So phase 2, this is what we're going to be getting right now in January, pending approval of the contract. This includes Government Plaza, Health and Human Services Agency, as well as TCICT. That is the largest portion of the space project that we've undertaken yet today, so it's going to be a big part of the project, as well as General Services moving into the former Office of Education building right across the way here. DKJ Architects was the architects on phase 2 as well as phase 1. So phase 2 plans and specs were approved by the board back in October. We constructed it similarly to phase 1, where we had multiple bid packages. The first one was the Office of Education building for General Services, which included one very, very small additive alternate for carpet selection. Part B was the Government Plaza, the large portion of the project for HHSA and IT. And then C was a lump sum for both, where the contractor had the opportunity to provide an economy of scale if they were willing to undertake both of those projects, and it really shows itself here in a slide or two. Bids were opened on November 30th. We had one bid from Marco Construction and another bid from Forkham for a total of 2. Architect's estimate was $6.7 million. DKJ did not venture to do an estimate on package C, not knowing exactly how the trades and the sub-trades would discount their prices as a result of getting a larger economy of scale there. So the 6.7 is packages A and B added together. So here is the results. Here are the results. You can see Marco Construction only bid on package A as well as the additive alternate, which was very, very small amount. They did not bid on B and C. Forcum bid on A, the alternate B, as well as the combo package, which is C. And at the bottom, you see the 1.4 for A and the 5.3 for B, which would be a total of 6.7. The package C is the lowest bid here at 5.4, which is just under 1.3 million below the architect's estimate. So very, very favorable bid from Forcum Mackey. And I'll just, while we're on the subject, Forcum Mackey's been on our phase 1 and has done a great job, very responsive to the county's needs and to the department's needs, very, very mindful of the project and how it's impacting ongoing business, people who are still working while the project's going alongside them. So their lowest bid, we are not recommending the additive alternate at this time. It was a carpet selection that was being evaluated. It's not recommended to proceed at this time. So that's $1.275 million below the architect's estimate. The savings will be retained for contingencies. We're recommending utilizing a portion of that for the landscaping and the exterior improvements there at Government Plaza especially, because that'll go a long way to help beautify some of the projects. And I think we've mentioned previously that that's a priority for these projects. Marco Construction has requested to withdraw their bid due to a typographical error on their part, which does not materially impact the results of this, as they were not lowest bidder and only bid on one package, so not consequential to our recommendation. Here's the schedule. It's complicated, and it's probably more complicated than this even probably appears. It's essentially a 1.5-year project, and it's broken into these phases. Some of these phases even have their own little micro sub-phases, but in essence, what we want to communicate here is that there's going to be a very methodically planned out and regimented way of approaching the schedule to this project, because there's just so many moving parts. It all needs to be fine-tuned and refined very well. You can see clearly 1E is the only one not associated with Government Plaza. So all of the other items have to do with moving from different portions of Government Plaza at different times as things become available and open up. So with that, conclusion is that we would request that the board award the contract for Phase 2 to Forcum Mackey in the amount of $5,425,000, except the Marco Construction bid withdrawal request, and authorize the chairman to sign the construction contract. If approved, the notice to proceed would be issued. They would have 10 days to mobilize, and we would be in construction somewhere between Christmas and New Year, so right around January 1.
Okay, any questions or comments from board members? I do have one question for Mr. Hess. Of the a little over $5 million in total project cost, how much of the money is subvented versus coming from capital projects?
So the percentage-wise, probably about 75% of it is subvented from HHSA, and that includes also all of the Gov Plaza improvements, common areas, IT, and so on. So it's a significant amount is subvented.
Wish they could pay for all of it. But that being said, thank you for your generosity to get us to this point from HHSA. Any additional questions or comments from members of the public? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to the board for action. I think this is a significant win for the county to get this much improvement done to our workspaces, and significantly below what we had originally thought it was going to cost. So I look forward to the $1.3 million being diverted to the District 2 Road Fund.
Or the landscaping. Not that much, but.
Okay, I would move for approval and thank the gentleman from Poplar for all his help out there.
All right. We have a motion from Supervisor Ennis, a second from Supervisor Worthley. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
It's not quite as good as Cotton Center.
Okay, next we will move on to, we did. We already took up that item. Good. So the agenda just got shorter. Council, do we have need for a closed session, considering we have ended our open session items?
No, Mr. Chairman, we do not. Items A, B, C, E, F, and H are off calendar, so this concludes the agenda for today.
Wow, Happy New Year. No closed session today. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's meeting, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas. See you in 2018. Meeting is adjourned.
See you next year.
Or not.